All right, guys, this is Justin from Extreme Health Radio, and I don't want to make this video. I'm not happy about it, but it's about this whole Senator Pan thing with SB276 that got passed last night in the state of California. And I wanted to share some ideas because, a lot of people are bitching and complaining about it. And I see a lot of information that's just simply not correct. And so a few things I want to highlight in this thing is that, first of all, before, I can't tell you how many emails that we got from people that were telling us to send out this, certain links to all your people and all your listeners where the people can fill out an application, print it out, and then send it to their senator and let them know that, namely Senator Pan, that they're not for this whole SB276 thing and blah, blah, blah. Just to let you know, that kind of stuff doesn't work. Voting doesn't work. Writing letters to your little senator, writing letters to your little congressman, your politician, your slave master, doesn't work. Doesn't work. They're going to do what they want to do. This is business. This is business. And so what I think that whole letter writing campaign was, it was a way for them to gain even more control in finding out who is, quote, anti-vax. I think that's what that whole goal was. To figure out who's anti-vax so they can have the information so they can send CPS out there to the house, control them, vaccinate their children, put them in public schools, get them to be good citizens, all that kind of stuff. So the other thing that I wanted to share too is that they removed this whole vaccine exemption thing. And basically what that means, as far as I understand it now, is that in order for your child to get an exemption, they have to have had at least 8 adverse reactions to every one of the ingredients in the vaccine. Okay, so that's never going to happen. A doctor's never going to find 8 adverse reactions. Then they're going to say, what is adverse? They're going to jump around these terms. It's never going to happen. And doctors are now coming under rapid fire for giving out vaccines, and so or giving out exemptions. So that's never going to happen. So basically, they removed the religious, they removed the philosophical, and now they've just removed the medical. And so that's according to plan. That's what they do. And so the pushback here now is from a lot of people in the alternative natural health community are saying, oh, they're never going to, stick my child. I'm not going to let them do that. They don't own my child. They don't own me and all this kind of stuff. And what's wrong about that is that that's simply just not the case. People like that just don't have an understanding of what contract law is or how law works in America. And America, the United States of America, and the United States are 3 different legal entities, private corporations that people don't realize, people don't know. So it turns out that if you have ever signed a birth certificate for your children, then the state does own your children. So CPS can come at any minute and take your child. That's just the state of having a birth certificate. So if you have a birth certificate, then that's the case. So what they do is they turn a living, breathing human being into a dead legal entity, because it's only in the private that dead legal entities can have interactions with each other, dead corporations. That's why every legal document you have is in all caps, because that's a dead legal entity. It's a corporate financial engine, a vehicle through which you can interact with other legal entities in your life and to be able to engage in commerce. And that's the whole thing. It's all about commerce and money. And so that's the thing. If your child has a birth certificate, then there's no way that they don't have control. So that's like what Rothschild said. Lord Rothschild said, "Own nothing, control everything." And so technically, in the legal sense of the word, they don't own your children, they control your children, which is basically the same thing, but it's better for them, because if they own them, then they would have to take care of them, they'd have to feed them, they'd have to give them a place to live and all that kind of stuff if they owned them. So what they do is they legally let you own them, and they get to control everything from cradle to grave that they do, and make it something where they can make money off your children, which are basically the products. We are the products. We're the workers for United States, the corporation. So the reason for the birth certificate is for them to be able to control you. So if you have a birth certificate, then there's nothing you can do about it. So the other thing that you can do through contract law, through paperwork in the private, a lot of things that I don't fully understand. I think you would need to study this stuff for multiple lifetimes in order to be able to understand at a deep, visceral level what's actually going on legally. is that it's my understanding that you can file a lien against your child, and you can do that through private paperwork. And then if CPS comes in, for your child, then the person that has the highest lien on your child would be you, and so you would get the ability to control your child before CPS would. Because I think before they come and get your child, they file a lien as well. But if there's a pre-existing lien, one that you put there, then legally, then that lien must be met first. So that's something to consider. I don't know much about that, but a while back, there's a lot of pushback from people with this hashtag called CanPan. And I knew he was going to be reelected. I knew it, because it would be like if you had, Ford Motor Company, had a big corporation, and you needed a VP of sales. You needed to drive sales and marketing up, right? So you hire some guy to be the VP of sales, and then all of a sudden sales go up 300%. And then what do you think? You're going to let your workers vote for whether or not they want to keep this new VP of sales who is just responsible for a 300% increase in sales? That's what Senator Pan is. He's been bought and paid for by the pharmaceutical industry. So like writing a letter to him is not going to work. That's just, that's ridiculous. Voting does not work, never has worked, never will work, because, if you're the owner of a private corporation, which is basically what the United States is, it's a private corporation. Every private corporation has a president, right? So they let you select a president, or they let you elect one. They do the selecting, you do the electing. So maybe the election process works, but they ultimately select the president. So what does this require for us to do? What's the solution to SB276? Well, the solution is not something that you're going to want to hear because it sucks. The solution is for all of us to take complete 100% ownership of every aspect of our life. The only reason why this is an issue is because we think that it's a good idea to put kids in public school, which I don't think it is, for a lot of reasons. But I won't get into those now. So we've been sold this idea that public school is the best viable option for our children to grow and to learn. So that's a lie that we have to deconstruct for ourselves. And then we've also been sold the idea that in order for them to be good citizens, they need to go to school. So that's one of the first issues. So if you have to, if you think the school is a good idea, it does not matter whether or not you put them in there or not. You have to, because you have to work. So the solution, unfortunately, is for all of us to change the way we are living so that we don't have to have a 9-to-5 job, giving up control of our children. So that's the solution. So what does that mean from a creative perspective? Well, maybe that means starting a business on the side until you can get it up economically viable enough for you to live on, so that you can control your time and be home and homeschool. Maybe that means hiring somebody to help you. Maybe it means asking your boss or your employer if you can stay home more and work from home, and do a real big sales job and sales pitch to try to get them to think that it's going to be a good idea for you to stay home and work. You can get more done and blah, 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 so that you can actually control your child and raise them in an environment that makes sense. A lot of us, from an egoic perspective, we like to complain about what's happening in Africa or what's happening in some other part of the world, or what the government's trying to do and all this kind of stuff. That's the ego, ego is a good thing. We need to have ego. Without ego, things wouldn't get done, right? But the problem with that is that we like to solve things in the macro. We need to start solving things in the micro. We need to start shoring up every aspect of our life and changing it so that we're not as dependent on the government. Imagine if everyone was financially, economically viable enough to be able to not send their children to public school. Then all of a sudden, if let's say 70% of people took their kids out of public school, imagine the economic hit they would get from just the vaccines, let alone the control and the manipulation of the minds that happens in public education. Man, oh man, oh man, this is crazy times we live in. I'd be surprised if this video actually makes it onto YouTube, but we're living in crazy times. And I think this is an opportunity for us all to take complete ownership and 100% responsibility for every aspect of our life, from our relationships to where we live, to who we interact with, to what jobs we have, to how we make money, to the debt we're in, to how we take care of ourselves through self-care and all that kind of stuff. I think it's so important for all of us to take ownership of every aspect of our life so we're less dependent. I don't think there's any way that we can be 100% not dependent on the government, because in order to do that, you need to live out in the middle of the forest and be completely self-sustained and self-reliable and self-sustainable out there. And none of us want that, right? We would love to live in neighborhoods. We like our neighbors. We want to go surfing. We want to go to the beach and interact with each other in public and, use dollar bills for things. And so there's no way for us to be outside of their control. But what if we are just a little bit? And if we were, then I think we could start making some real changes in the future generations, into our children's lives, and how future generations are raised and the kind of mindset they have. And so as far as solutions go, I'd love to hear what you think about it. In the Extreme Health Academy, which we're working with people to be able to work with their children to be able to, if they're going to get vaccinated, what they can do before, during, and after a vaccine shot to dramatically mitigate the potential side effects that could happen as a result of that. So if you're interested in that kind of stuff, it's a big part of our academy. We're going to be focusing more on that. So the link is down below if you want to join the academy. But I'm curious, what are your thoughts? If this even makes it up to YouTube, I bet they'll take it down. But let me know what your thoughts are, and comment below. I'd love to hear. And if you know of anybody that kind of thinks along the same lines as this, share this video with them too. I think hopefully they would appreciate it. And hopefully I've opened some eyes and inspired you to take some change in your personal life that will help. So love you guys, and I'd love to hear what you think below.